Hi there. So I received this shot from Harvey, and the shot is about a car hitting a structure and just destroying the pillar holding it up. And the problem with the students had is that they needed the car to hit that pillar, but they didn't quite know how to do it. So, and the director of the project was there were also some limitations on how the car could hit the pillars. So the first thing I did with this car was to grab the animation. Actually, it would be cool if I could show you the original version of this. There you go. So this is the car, and the shot that we had originally was this one. There you go. So the problem we were having here is that they weren't quite sure how to make this car hit the pillar in the front. They weren't quite happy about the animation either. And also since we weren't quite sure how to hit this pillar, the first thing I really wanted to do is to spend, I don't know, half an hour maximum and make a version of the animation for which I could propose the director something very quickly and decide, okay, so the car is hitting with this part of the bumper. I mean, this animation I made really is not good animation, but the point is that it's just there to help the director understand if he wants the car to hit with the left side of the bumper, or for instance with the back of the car. I mean, maybe he wants the car, maybe he prefers the car to slide through the pillar instead, like in this case. That would be cool as well, right? So we're not really looking here at fine animation, not at all. We're just looking at the way the impact happens. I mean, the position of the impact on the car. The director eventually liked this idea, and then that means that I can now work on, and that's when I started to open your Maya files, and I found some very interesting structure there for which we have, if you look at it, we have the shot which is referencing an animation which is referencing the rig. So the animation referencing the rig is quite okay, it's a common thing, but a structure in which the animation is being referenced onto another scene and there's some more animation to another scene is not really going to help you out very much, because if you need to change anything like this one, you gotta go back to this one and tweak it there without seeing the final result, and then you need to go back onto the final shot and see if it works there. So this is a very time-consuming process, very difficult to control. There are so many things that could go wrong. So usually what we prefer is an approach like this one, where we have the shot itself, which contains nothing but the animation keys. It's referencing the environment, the camera, and the rig, so that if anything goes wrong in here, it's only the animation keys. Everything else is safe. So what I'm going to do in here in this Maya scene is I'm going to try and just import the animation block out and see how it works, so that I can operate on it. So I'm going to File, References, and I'm going to File, Import Objects from Reference, and now I only have, as a reference in the scene, I only have the car. So the path and the animation are now belongs to this scene. I really would like to reference the environment as well, but I just don't have time to do this right now because the delivery is really close, so I won't touch that. But now I have the animation in the scene. That's the animation there. I need to check a couple of things. So for instance, if I'm running at 24 frames in real time, and if I'm using Maya's parallel evaluation in the viewport, which I am, and this is pretty slow as a playback. This makes it really complicated to animate stuff. So I'm going to save this as an animation scene outside. So I'll call this thing shot 10v4. Actually, we'll call this thing anim at the beginning so that I know that's the animation file, just in case Maya crashes. And the first thing I really want to do is I want to make sure that I get quick playback, and I'm looking at this thing and they don't really seem super heavy. I'm pretty sure Maya can deal with this kind of stuff. So the problem might be the car itself, Oh, and the fact that we have motion blur and anti-alias enabled in the camera, that's also a performance killer. So now we press play, we are going, let's see how fast we're going in here. So frame rate, come on, show me the frame rate. So go display, heads up display, and somewhere in here there was the frame rate. Yeah, there you go, it's there, sorry. And I'm going at around 17 frames per second, which is okay-ish, I guess. So that's about okay. Now, whenever I constrain objects to a motion path, I have a little bit of a problem, because now, in order to control the rotation of the car, of the object, I am forced to go into the motion path there and change maybe the side twist, not that side, the front twist, I think it is, not even that. It's the up twist, which really is not a good thing to, I mean, you can do it, but it's not very easy to animate that way. Alternatively, I think the animator in here animated this offset control, which is in fact the right thing to do in my opinion. I mean, at least in my experience, I found that helps a lot. So that's already a cool thing to have. And then the problem is that we really would like to have real-time feedback in here, okay? Because the deadline is very close, and I'm not quite sure in here if I'm seeing things in real time or not. I don't think I am. I mean, yeah, I'm seeing them in real time, but I'm skipping frames. So usually it's better to have a proxy there. So I could perhaps open up another Maya in the meantime and build a proxy for this car. Now, however, let's see the keys that we have for this animation. So the impact happens at around 10:07 or so. Let me check the keys I have on the motion path there. So these guys. So perhaps, since I know I'm going to select the motion path several times in the course of this animation, I'm going to select the node now with pose to shelf, which is a tool that I have in my tool shelf, and you find it on a high-end 3D, but there is a bunch of tools like that. I am going to store this thing as a motion path on the shelf. So there you go, the selection there. So every time I click on it, I'm going to select the motion path and see the keys. So I don't have to go up into the motion path and open the thing anymore. Also, I do not want to be able to select anything but curves. So I will need to have to load my shortcuts for animation. There you go. So that I can, for instance, dynamically toggle the selection mask in here without going up there with the mouse. And then I think I'm sort of ready to move. Now, I'm not quite convinced what the motion of this controller is right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably mute it. So I'm going to merge the layers to begin with. And I'm going to use Smart Bake when I merge the layers so that it doesn't plot a key per each frame of the timeline. There you go. And then I'm going to mute this guy. So I'm going to mute, right click on the channel box, mute all, and now when I check the animation, I'm only seeing what the motion path does. Okay, and you see that the car goes pretty slow at times, so I'm not quite sure in here if the speed is reasonable or not. And usually in high-end production you would have some sort of tool that tells you how fast an object is moving. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to use the measure tool and perhaps measure that. So this one here is 2313, so it's 23 meters, and the car covers this 23 meters in 26 frames. So in about a second, this car is running at around 82 kilometers per hour, which is not bad. I think we can work with that. It's relatively realistic, I think. Now I'm going to look at this from the top view just to see if this speed is kept throughout. And you see that it becomes very slow all of a sudden. So the speed it had when it came in was one speed, but then it suddenly slows down. And if we go and check, I will select the motion path again and go into the graph editor. You see that the speed is a certain speed in here, and then it slows down, accelerates, slows down, and so forth. So you're going to get this exact pattern of accelerations in your motion. So that's probably something that we want to change. So I think if we are going in that direction, we may perhaps go there a bit more constantly, so it comes at, you see, at a constant speed in there. And perhaps in here we, instead of slowing down that much, we can be more or less the same speed. And this is again the same speed, and at the end yeah, we are going linearly there. So in fact, probably this whole thing could be auto-tangented, and the first key could be put to sort of linear. So now that gives me some sort of constant motion. Now the other thing is perhaps these control vertices in here, I can smooth them so that they're not a straight line, because it looks a bit strange that the car goes perfectly straight in here. However, you see that when I use soft selection mode, I'm selecting by mistake also the rest of the curve. But that's because soft selection mode right now, it's using volume as a fall off. I can maybe try surface, and you see that with surface, the fall off follows the curve. So that makes it a bit easier to troubleshoot to adapt the curve, and you see, keep it a bit more organic there, because it's the only place of the curve which is not straight. So please notice that I'm not even looking at the camera yet. Right now I'm only interested in making sure that the trajectory is sort of clean. There you go. Yes. So I was saying that the director kind of agreed that they were happy with the car slicing through the pillar with the back of the car. So I'm going to have a look at this, and right now this curve isn't really compatible with that kind of motion. So I will have to go back from the top view, and I will have to edit this thing, possibly with soft selection again, just to make the curve a bit more compatible with that. Usually when I work on shots like this one, I have a tear-off copy of the camera so that I have it there at all the time. So when I zoom into one camera, now I can see more or less where things are in camera. So I think I could even grab these guys and probably go for a curve a bit earlier in space, something like that, I guess. So the car is going there. Yes, and now perhaps I want to have a look at the path from here. So the car will leave the turn. Maybe it could even, I'm thinking perhaps the car could even be a bit wider in the turn, and just let's see where it goes from the camera in this case, so that, you know, it peaks through the side. And since the final shot will have the car shoot at the pillars, perhaps I could just slide outside here, and so that I can see the gun shooting at the pillars, and then I can recover and go back into the sort of corridor that I have in here, and then prepare for the turn there. Something like this, I suppose. So first I want to block out, you see, the whole motion there, and make sure that it makes some sense. Of course, I have no guarantee my animation will be any better than the animation I was presented with. I'm just trying to fix it the way I would normally do if this were my shot. So this is the camera the car motion. I want to check in frame. I still want to make sure that that motion is sort of consistent, so perhaps I could just leave the keys in there and just keep it constant. And I think this turn could be a bit softer. There you go. Now, once I'm happy with the path, I just want to check that the framing sort of works. So perhaps in here, one thing that I could do is I could tighten the curve a bit, just so that I just want to adjust the curve a tiny bit there, just to make sure that the car is sort of rotating at the end of the shot. There you go. Something like this, I guess, will work. And I'm a bit, let me just check this motion path. Yeah, okay, yes. So I want to check again that the curve, that I didn't touch anything in the curve there, that everything works. And now I'm going to look at it from the camera point of view. Yes, and now, I mean, it's not, I mean, we're not going to send this to Pixar, but I think we are, nevertheless, we have something in there that at least we know it's clean in 3D, so it's clean motion there. And we know it has a constant speed of about 80 kilometers per hour, if my math is correct. And I don't know if it's correct really, but it's really cool. I think that as we go, we can go past the building, show the car once more before we come back in. It's a good reinforcement of the action there. So that's sorted. So now I've cleaned my animation there, and I'm going to probably save this scene and perhaps ensure that I have autosave on. We don't really want to lose files, do we? So my autosave is off. I want to limit it. I want 10 autosave, 5 minutes interval, and also when I hit Ctrl S on my keyboard, I want an incremental save to be stored as a backup. Okay, so that sorts it as well. So now, after we are done the main motion, I think it's worth checking perhaps if, I think I want this curve to be a bit softer there. There you go, something like that. Now I want to see when the hit is going to happen. We have a limit here because the director was fairly clear about we have a problem. We have some simulation that has been done already on the pillars. You see, the gun on the car is supposed to shoot at the pillars there. So we want to make sure that the car hits the pillar after it's done shooting. So it needs to hit at around this, after this frame in here. It would be good to see this thing with a frame counter underneath. So I'm going to find DJVV. And since the video file I was given does have some funky codec, I cannot open it up in Premiere or in DJV View or in QuickTime, so I can't have it with frames. So I think the lesson here is, let's try to make sure that you make it easier for people to help you, because it will be a lot easier for them to work with you again in the future if you make life easier for them. I mean, 3D is pretty complex already. So now I will have to eyeball this. In conversation with the director, we agreed that the hit point should be at around 207 on the timeline. It would have been great to be able to evaluate this frame. Really, it would have been really helpful for animation, but that's it. So right now I know that it's about at 3 seconds in that the bullets are gone. So 3 seconds in means 24 by 3, it's 72 frames. Wow, that's 72 frames. So I can hit, that's a bit strange. Yes, I know why it's strange. It's strange because this video doesn't even include the whole animation. So no frame counter, no complete animation, completely impossible to time this. So in here I mean, if I go on animating without knowing anymore, I may end up spending time animate something that doesn't line up with animation. So I will ask the director and go on with this tutorial. So the frame you're looking at is frame 211. So we really need to make sure that the car hits after that frame. Okay, because we don't want to mess around with this simulation that we're seeing, because that simulation that we're seeing has been cached already. There's no way the effects artist in this case can change it. It's the way it is. So we need to work around that constraint. So at 211, probably the hit is going to happen at a couple of frames later at least. Hopefully, well, I don't know. That will make, for safety reasons, we'll probably move it to 216 or so, just in case. So, which in fact, incidentally, is exactly where the car is hitting. Is already there. So I think I'm onto something here, perhaps. So now let's just move these all guys, all these guys, a bit more like so that the car is already in the right position. I will do one play there. And I have, yeah, it's kind of working. The dust, I think the dust at 12, 13, 10, sorry, 213 it's probably settled already. But for safety, probably I will have this happen even a bit later, I think. So but we need time at the end of the shot to show the crumbling pillar. So I think I can't go any later than that. I think we will have to. One thing we can do with the effects artists, we can ask them, can you offset this whole animation, just say even 10 frames earlier? That could work. So I will try to. So I have delayed the car as much as I could, and and then I will ask the effects artist to help me out and offset their animation a bit more. So that sorts it, I think. Now let's see. The thing I really wanted to do was to have a quicker feedback from the car, because I feel we're not going real time. So I will open up the car rig for a sec. So here I am with the car and I'm looking at it. I'm really curious to see how many polygons we're moving on screen, just to see if it's me, what's not. So it's just under 2 million polygons, and one wouldn't expect this to be a problem nowadays. And in fact, it's pretty fast anyway. But yeah, that's the way it is. So perhaps there was the Emit Occlusion in the other scene. Let's see if the other scene had in-camera Emit Occlusion. And no, it does not. So what I will do is, when you animate hard surface models that don't need to deform, it's just a wiser thing at times to just put in there a box with the right volume on it, say like so. There you go. And then I will extrude this out so that I have an idea of how big this thing is. There you go. That's gonna be my beautiful car. So, and perhaps in this master control, I'm going to add a new channel. I'm going to call it let's say high, and as in high res. Let's call it high res, and it's going to be a boolean. So when it's true, we have high res. When it's false, we don't. And then I will call in the node editor, will into the group. I will probably create another group here. I'm going to call it proxy geo underscore grp. Dump it in there. This cube in here we want to freeze and delete history. So I'm going to freeze everything there, and I'm going to dump it into proxy geo. Now this is the global control, and I wanted to control the visibility of the proxy geo group. So I'm going to select proxy geo group. It's already here. So when the high-res is on, the visibility of this guy should be off. The problem is that this really is not going to work right now, so I need to reverse the value if I want on to drive off, for instance. So in here I will try with a reverse node. I don't remember if reverse works with booleans. It's a while I don't use reverse because it always gives me troubles. So I will go input and output. There you go. So now if I go high res on, the box is gone, you see. Now I want to do the same thing with the car asset geo there. I really want to see the wheels, because the wheels, they indicate better what's going on there. So I will connect this to the wheel thing, to the wheel group. So we'll add it to the node editor, and when the high res is set to 1, the visibility of the body should be set to 1. And now with the master I can control high res, low res, high res, low res. So that makes it easier for me to animate. So I will save this thing. I will go back into my Maya scene, and this is not my Maya scene, and into the Maya scene I would probably save first, because you never know if it's gonna crash when you call in a new reference. And then you go reference editor and you ask Maya very politely to reload the reference, and of course you want to check that doesn't, you want to cross your fingers, because changing references is always an interesting experience. So now in here in Maya we should have a new channel on our rig, which allows us to, whoa, there's something going on in there. I think it's crashing. There you go, it was waking up simply. So high res on, we have the high res off, and there's nothing going on in there. There's something funky going on in there. So let's have a look at this. And another problem I see in here is that the name is very long because of namespaces. So I'm going to the reference editor, grab the reference, and I'm going to just call this thing C, stands for car. So the name is a bit more readable by a poor human, the way I am. So in here, just not sure why. There you go, it's here, the box is here. It's just Maya is not yeah, I'm stupid. That's the reason why it doesn't work, because I forgot to do this, to constrain the proxy to the car. So I can grab maybe the body, which is already following the rig, and the body is going to be the master, the proxy geo is going to be the slave, and in rigging I go constrain, parent, and save, so that now if I am moving the master, the proxy should just follow. There you go. Still not very fast. Well, that's bizarre. I wonder if there is anything else going on, like expressions or whatnot. Let me just check if in the expression editor. So there is an expression here. But yeah, I don't see anything going on in that expression, so I don't know what's going on there. So I will go back into my, or rather, I don't have the time to really check. So I will go in here, back to the scene, I will reload the reference. There you go. Oh boy, it takes forever. There you go. And now there's also a problem down here. You see it's highlighting that we don't have the image plane there. So while it's good that we don't have the image plane in a way because it's less stuff to load, I mean, Maya is going to still look for it. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm probably going to disable the image plane so that Maya won't complain anymore about that. And now I'll press play and I will see what's going on in here. And now I'm running at 23 frames per second. That's not too bad. We earned a few frames there, and it's less less fascinating to look at the box moving around, but certainly it helps to look at it in real time. So now let's have a look at what we need to fix. So now the next thing we need to fix is the steering wheels in here. We really want them to act properly, and we really need this guy to rotate properly. So these two things. So so the car is moving, and then what the car is doing in here is rotating the wheels this way. The problem is that if you rotate the wheels this way in a car and you're not in a turn already, I doubt you will be turning left. In fact, you will be probably going right, which tells me that perhaps this guy should already start in a turn of some sort there. Okay, so that's a bit more believable. Then the other thing I want to do is I want to see what is going on in this curvature here. So let's see what we have. I muted them all, but now I don't need to mute them all anymore, so I will unmute them all. Ooh, this is probably a crash. Oh, there you go. So now I can appreciate the motion of this control in here. So I think that in here, if we want to turn this fast and then steer the wheels that way, which is really cool action, we probably need to steer the wheels to the left first to start the turn, right? So, but now I think more than anything else, we want to make sure that the motion of this master rotating the car this way and that way makes some sense. And also, I don't want to have any rotation going on this way and this way. And if I look at the numbers here, we do have some interesting rotation going on in X and Z, which I don't think we really need. So I'm going to, in fact, I'm going to delete that stuff, and I'm going to zero out those rotations, and then I'm going to check very quickly and this movement is quite alright. It's not too bad. There are a couple of bits where the car sort of straightens. You see in here it straightens and then it just locks in there, but really probably what's going to happen in here is that you're going to straighten alright. So I'm going to indeed straighten the car, but I'm going to overshoot. I'm going to overshoot the turn a little bit. There you go. And then I'm going to reset to readjust the turn. So as you straighten, you will then go back to the trajectory you were following. In here, I'm going to. This is kind of correct, I think. Perhaps one thing that we could do is start the turn a bit earlier. There you go, just to run that into the turn. This is kind of cool. And then as we straighten up, I think this animation actually makes a lot of sense. As we straighten up, we probably want to overshoot a bit and then regain control over the turn, which makes a lot of sense, I think. So in fact, whoever did this animation, in my opinion, put some heart into it, and it shows. I mean, someone knew their stuff in here. At least they knew about cars, I think. So now they did their research. Now we have this last turn in here, and I think what we want to do probably, if we're going to hit with the back of the car, we're probably going to need to rotate the car a bit earlier, a bit more. And for now, I'm not really worried about the intersection there with the pillar. And then in here, we were saying we're going to hit at around 2:15. and then in the end probably something like this will work. So I'm going to check the rotation curves. I want to see if they make any sense. I expect them to be rather smooth, so perhaps I will use auto tangent there just to make sure it's smooth. Normally you would, I mean, in high-end animation you would really want to spline this thing and I don't know, refine the curves and all that kind of stuff that you can do if you have time. But in this case, since we really need to deliver this thing in a very short time, I'm going to just be happy with a basic clean curve there. Then maybe when I look at this from the top view, one thing that I can do is I can go grab the proxy of this car. And I'm going to give it a new material, and this new material is going to be Lambert, and it's going to be, I think I'm going to make it a sort of red Lambert there, just so that I see the motion a lot better in here. And you see that the car now struggles to, I mean, at the end of each curve is taking a while to recover. It's not automatically straightening up and following the path, which is kind of good, I think. Yeah, maybe this last turn in here give us a bit too much. It's a bit too much rotation going on there. Maybe I could reduce that a little bit, and then I could keep it going. I don't know why this key is here. I probably don't need it. In fact, you see nothing has changed in there. So perhaps in here I could just rotate a bit more. So keep rotating. There you go. And then as it follows the curve, I just straighten up the car a bit. This is probably too much rotation that I have added in there, so I will reduce it. And then the guy, whoever is the driver, will start the rotation there. I want to have a look at the wheels in there, because whoever animated this thing did some research. So I think it starts the rotation here, that's when it turns, and then it keeps the car there. Yes, perfect. Yeah, that's great, in fact. So now even if we have real-time feedback in Maya now, because we are working with a proxy rig, it's a good thing that it's a good thing to do a play blast in here. So I'm going to make a good old QuickTime play blast H264, whatever quality, 100 works, and I'm going to use the window for this one, and I'm going to use 50%. So I'm going to do the play blast. There you go, and here I have the play blast. So I'm looking at it, and for the most part, it's kind of good. I think I believe it could be a bit softer on the way he recovers from the turns, but that's kind of okay. It's a good idea at times to just flip the play blast. So look at it from another angle. So you just flip the camera there, just in case. That often shows you other stuff that you didn't notice earlier on. There you go. So I think that kind of works. So now let's go back, and I think the other thing that we could do perhaps is to maybe add some variation. Now it's so very linear, but it's unlikely that a car will be able to do all these motions while keeping the same speed, right? I would expect, for instance, this initial beat to be a bit faster than this one, and then this second beat here to be a bit faster than this one, for instance, that we are seeing on screen right now. So let's take care of that too. So I will go grab my good motion path in there, and I'm going to save first, and then I'm going to put the motion path on an animation layer. There you go. And I'm going to on that layer I'm going to set a key on the motion path, and then as the animation starts, I'm going to make sure that this guy gets to this, let's say, this point a bit faster. So I'm going to raise the U value there, or rather, sorry, or rather go to an earlier frame and raise the U value there so that we are there a bit earlier. But now all of a sudden we have a bit of a problem there, because if we now raise we speed up the beginning, we are going to change all of the good work that was done on the wheels. So that's a bit unfortunate. So but I mean, we can't avoid doing that, so I will just mute the chassis and the wheels for now, because I would need to concentrate on speeding up certain areas. And at 50 we are already near the end. We are a bit faster in, if you see, now we are faster at the beginning, and then we're going to slow down for that. But we don't really want to slow down that much, right? So if I zero out, that's where we should be at 127. So let's see. So we are faster at the beginning. That's a bit too slow. So perhaps we could be a bit slower at the beginning. So this is where we that's a bit too slow. So perhaps here. So that's where we were earlier on. Now we are here. So we are still faster than usual at the beginning. Then we start to slow down for this curve, and perhaps this frame. So we are now slowing down for this section, and then maybe I set a key in here, and I could accelerate back in here and have this section happen a bit earlier, maybe. So a tiny bit earlier. Say we are there, so that the car accelerates out of the curve, and it goes at the regular speed you had earlier on. And then we want to accelerate in this bit here. So perhaps it will be a bit faster and get to the near the impact point a bit earlier there. And then I zero out in the end. So now we added a bit of a acceleration and deceleration in there. That's not good. That doesn't look too good. So perhaps I could reduce the layer intensity by 50%, so that I get some of the stuff that I put in there, but I'm not going to change the animation so dramatically. So now I'm going to put, you see, some speed up and slow down in there, but they're not as strong as I originally put them in the layer. So that could also work. I think, however, that down here I could perhaps speed up these a bit more. The problem is that this shot needs to cut in with another shot which I haven't seen. I just know that the car needs to be in frame, so it would be ideal to see that shot really, because this would let me take a decision on the animation. So I think one thing that I could maybe do to have the camera a bit faster in the end is to have a tighter curve in here. So perhaps when I go into the motion path in there, I could have the car travel a bit more, and perhaps I was thinking maybe the car could still be in frame. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to get this working. Without seeing the previous the next shot, everything becomes a lot more complicated. But I will keep the car in here and then we will see. So now I'm going to press play again. So I'm going to press play again, see my animation in action. There you go. It's sort of okay. It has its problems, of course. And now all I need to do is I need to go in here. I need to do the retiming of the poses, or wheels and chassis. So for instance, in here, what I can do is already at the beginning, I could have the wheels turning, as in the guy already started the turn earlier on, or I could have them a bit straight, and then a few frames later, they turn, so that they start the turn there, and then the guy, let's say the driver, keeps them there for as long as it takes to start the turn, and then start the counter rotation there. Starts the counter rotation there. There you go. To keep the car on the path. And then in here, the front wheels are getting the grip, so they're turning. But then I would expect the driver to readjust and start yet another turn. There you go, like so. So it starts another turn, as you see, and then probably a bit faster it counter rotates. There you go, to stay on the turn. Then in here, this is when the wheels, they really start to get a grip there again. So the driver is probably going to, there you go, turn the wheels to do the curve. And it's going to try to maintain the trajectory there. And then it's going to readjust. And readjust. And in here we are going to start another curve, so another turn, so I'm going to rotate the wheels. And then we're going to start this mega turn there, which however is going to start probably a bit later than originally anticipated. So it's going to start here, so that's when the wheels are turning like mad, like crazy. There you go, so they start the turn, the driver counter rotate the wheels to keep them on a path, and we are on the path there. So now I'm going to perhaps select the wheels so that I can see what they do on screen. There you go, and they sort of do their job. I'm sure a driver would probably have something to say about my driving skills, but we are in a rush, so there you go. So now we see the animation in there. So the turn around the barrel is really cool. This little hit here is also quite nice. It gives some fidelity. It's perhaps a bit too quick, if you see what I mean. So maybe what I could do with that guy is, why am I selecting the dome outside? What's this thing? It's the sky dome. Let me just remove it for now. So I could perhaps take that area there and smooth it a bit. So I will go here in the top view. I don't know why in the top view I don't see my shader anymore. That would be, let's see if I'm using default shading. Yes, I am. There you go. So I'm going to check if these. Yeah, so perhaps what I could do in here is, since it's a bit hard the way it changes direction, I could land there with the rotation a bit earlier so that I stay with that rotation a bit longer, and then at first rotate a bit less and then accelerate a bit more. And then as I slide, I could even perhaps rotate a tiny bit more in there. And then you see that the back of the car is sort of straightening there, but perhaps I can keep on rotating a tiny bit and rotate this thing a tiny bit less so that the car now will do a bit more. There you go, you see a kind of a softer turn in there. I want to check the graph editor as well there, just to see the curve sort of makes sense. So we're going, we turn the opposite way, then we turn again the opposite way, then we keep on turning. In here, perhaps one thing that we could do is do not change the curve immediately, but maybe maybe keep the turn going a tiny bit. There you go. So it becomes a bit smoother as a turn throughout. Okay, so now I'm going to have a look at this thing once more. Not very convinced about what happens in here, but it's behind the pillar, so I won't I won't fix it. Let's keep in mind we haven't fixed the main problem yet, which was how we hit the pillar. That's the important stuff. So however, now I look at this thing from the camera, which is using again default material, and I'm going to press play. Yes, so now the car has a bit of a higher level of fidelity. You can see it's not just an object on a path, but there's someone in there trying to keep it on the road. And in here, I think what would help a lot if at this stage, when the car seems to turn towards us, if we helped it with a bit of wheeling, a bit of steering going on there, so that we can actually see the wheels turning there. And in here we could exaggerate this a lot more, I guess. There you go. Now that's sorted. I think we need to really fix the way we hit this pillar in here, and now the problem is that the way we hit the pillar in here is also too late. We are supposed to hit at, I think, around 2:15. So too early. Sorry, I think we're supposed to hit a bit earlier. So what I'm going to do in here is, I know that more or less the motion path motion is kind of even. So perhaps I could add a variation on this controller here. So what I will do is I will put it on a layer, and I will go to, say, 10:15 when I said we should be hitting the pillar, and I'm going to move the car over here and place it where the hit should happen. So here with the back, set a key in here, and then I will go to, say, the beginning and set a 0 key, so the car will be in the right position. So now the car is going to melt, let's say, to mix the animation and progressively get to that point where it hits, you see? So you won't even notice that we changed the animation, but we did, and we just changed the contact pose there, and we just hid the transition, you see, within the whole duration of the animation. Another thing we could do if we didn't want to change the end of the animation too much, say from this point on, perhaps we could set another key in here and then zero out the beginning, so that we get at here where we are offset. And then progressively, as we go towards the next key, we're going back to the original animation, to the new animation. So from at 154 we are fully offset already, and then there you go, we turn and we hit the pillar. And this is done with just 3 keys. Let's see if it makes some sense in 3D. Please notice how I always check that in 3D this thing works. Okay, I don't really want to have any surprise in there, and it sort of works. It's a bit slow. It's a bit slow now. So especially here at the end. It feels like the motion path is doing something funky there. So I will check the graph editor again on the motion path there. And I will also check what happens there. And you see that at the end, we have this layer which is slowing us down considerably. So perhaps one thing that we could do is not slow down. So let's see what happens there if we don't slow down. Yeah, that's a lot better. Except now what's going to happen is that we are hitting at 211 instead of 215. So what I need to do in there is go onto the layer where I did the hit at 215, and I'm going to put to zero out just to see where we were. So we were there. So I'm going to place it so that we hit the thing at 215. And the animation will now be adjusted. So that means I have probably to adjust this offset as well. So that's where it needs to be. And zero out the beginning. So now I will have the animation again merging the old animation from 0 to 160. And then from 160 to 215. We're going to have the new animation, the new offset. So this way you see we can super easily control when is it that we need to hit the pillar and where. And we just merge these changes among things that people won't probably notice. So I'm going to check again. So the car is doing its magic. It's turning around the barrels. And then we're also making good use, you see, of this side here. Now we're using the negative space of the frame a lot better to show this car, which is really cool. We should be seeing more of it. And also the gun which is placed here, you cannot see it, but it will be pointing exactly the position of the pillars. Perhaps in here now we are rotating a bit too much. So I will go on the rotation here, and I will. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to when you have a lot of keys. It becomes very difficult to do adjustments. So perhaps you could use the lattice here and just check if you can perhaps soften something down. This is like a soft selection thing, really, and see if that works. Yeah, that kind of works. There you go. And I think in here we really want to see that hit with the steering of the wheels when we start the curvature there. So I'm going to keep the wheels a bit straighter there. And then I'm going to give a nice hit with the wheels in there just to start the turn. They're probably going to stay there for a couple of frames in that position, so that we can see them, and so that, I mean, these wheels have some weight. We cannot just change direction from one frame to another. Also, it becomes very difficult to know how long they are spending on that in that position. So that's when the stalker cam really comes in handy, because what I could do with the stalker cam is I could grab the main controller of the car I'm using right now, call in the stalker cam, and stalk all channels. And now, hopefully, there you go. Here I have a problem with far clipping plane in the camera, so I will grab the camera and just change the far clipping plane to a higher number. There you go. So now, from this angle, I can better appreciate what the car is doing and how the wheels are moving. You see they're a bit harsh in the way they turn. So in here, this is when we start the turn. So probably they are starting the turn a bit too early. It would be good to be seeing the motion path. So the motion path is going top right in here. You see that the second hit is kind of cool. So perhaps this hit is not well informed, so I will just change it a little bit. So the guy is just changing the direction of the car a tiny bit, reassessing, stay straight, and then it's going to give a hit with the wheels to start the turn, you see. And in here I think for the first 2-3 frames of this turn we really want to keep the wheels there a tiny bit longer, and then they turn, and I think they will end up overshooting a little bit, and then going back to stable. So that's another way you can, now you see that the rotation of the wheels there is a lot smoother at the end. I'm going to fix the rotation of the wheels only at the end, because the thing in here is that that's when we are closer to the camera, so that's when we need higher level of fidelity. If I had time I could do the whole thing, okay, I could clean everything there, but really without the time it's a luxury to do that. But the problem is that I still don't see that nice rotation that I want to see. I want to see the trigger of the curvature of the steering there. So perhaps I will start perhaps a rotation here like that. I will assume that the pilot is now triggering some sort of skidding, so it will try to keep it stable by counter steering the wheels. So it starts a rotation, that starts skidding, so it counter steers to keep the car in there, but then he realizes that the car is about to hit the pillar, so it's going to steer to start a mega curve there, a mega turn like that, and it's going to counter steer to keep the car controlled in the turn. So let's see if that makes any sense. It's really hard to notice. Yeah, okay, so it's sort of getting there now. So now we are hitting the pillar like that, and I think one thing that we could do in here to make this look a bit cooler is we are rotating the back of the car quite a lot in here, then all of a sudden it doesn't rotate anymore. Let's have a look at this from the top view. And yes, we have this massive rotation, but then we kind of die there. So I'm going to increase the rotation a tiny bit there, so that we keep rotating the back of the car a bit more. Yes, and then perhaps towards the end, towards the end we sort of recover a tiny bit there. And this is when I would really need to know what's the look of the next shot that we're going to see there, because I mean I've considerably changed the framing of the end of this shot, and now I don't know anymore if this is going to hook up with the next one. So it would be cool to know a bit more of our project here. So now the other thing we need to check now is the rotation of the car. Yeah, that kind of rotation there. So let's go again back to the top view is not quite useful as it used to be. So I think I will, this time around, I will create a perspective view like this one, for instance. Well, I will look at it through the perspective, and then I will grab this master and I will stalk it. We'll stalk all the channels in there. I don't know, should I stalk all the channels? I will try to stalk only the translation to see how it looks like. And again, I have a problem with, I really need to change the script, because when I wrote it, my as default clipping plane values were probably different. So now I'm going to press play and see if this is useful. Yeah, I think this is a useful point of view to evaluate how the chassis is turning around, rotating around the center of gravity there. So I'm going to go there into the channel box just to see if there's any layer that there isn't. So ostensibly, let's have a look at this from this angle. So we're going at full speed, and the turn, so we are probably zeroed out or something like that. So now we are turning, and I guess perhaps we could maybe turn a tiny bit that way, and then as we we keep that kind of rotation. The weight will probably be on the front wheels this stage. I'm not very good at I mean, I don't know about sport driving, but I kind of assume that the weight will be on the front wheels if we want to skid with the back wheels. And then at a later stage, as we skid, we're going to give it a bit more time to rotate that way. There you go, something like this. And I suspect that this will wobble a bit. The weight will be on the first. This might be too much. Yeah, this is probably too much. I look at it, and this car is as good as that here, so we'll probably raise this frame a bit more. And then in here, as we steer that way, what's going to happen is that for the first part, the weight will still be on this side probably, and on the front. And then as we spin, as we rotate, we have the weight going down to that side and a bit more centered, so not anymore, that's X, not anymore on the front. I don't know why there's a Y rotation in here, that's a bit too much perhaps. Then if you want to really feel this weight, what you want to do is you want to delay the moment the weight goes back to the left wheels. Something like this will probably do. Let's maybe make it a bit longer as an action. And then it will probably wobble its way a bit to the right. Which is why, by the way, we're going to start the next Tokyo Drift there. There you go. And this is when we regain composure. So probably going to start the rotation where the weight is in the opposite position. I mean, you can tell that whoever did this animation did some research, because this is already kind of working, I think. I think it is working. I don't have to do much really here. So in here, we probably need to keep the weight there because we are still turning that way, and then we shift the weight maybe a bit later this way. We can shift the weight a bit more, and then we can wobble perhaps. So go there, wobble a bit, wobble a tiny bit there, and as we turn, in here I suspect that the weight will be a bit more on that wheel, and in here I'm going to change the weight in here dramatically as much as I can without breaking the car, that is. So weight on the front wheel, and I'm going to keep it there. It makes sense, in fact, to have the weight on the front wheel in here, because if we are drifting with the back of the car, that's where we expect the weight to be. And then in here, probably, I don't really know where to put the weight in here. I will just wing it up. There you go, and then that's it. So now I want to have a look at this thing. And you see that we added a bit of wobbliness to this car. Especially here is kind of cool, although it's a bit harsh, okay? So it rotates, sort of hits an invisible wall. So perhaps could rotate a bit less. And in here, could rotate a bit more. And then as it turns, we want to have a look at it from this point of view. As it turns, this is a bit linear perhaps, so maybe we could keep the weight there, and that as it turns, I don't know really, perhaps we just ought to straighten this thing in here. In here we're wobbling a bit. There you go. Now I press play. I want to have a look at it from a different angle. There you go. Sort of okay, I guess. It could be better, of course, but again, we are mindful of time, which is running really fast. So now we look at it from the point of view of the camera again, just to see if everything makes sense in there. And now if you pay attention, you can actually see the car is wobbling a bit. There you go. It could be a bit wobblier there. It feels like it spins, it twists a tiny bit. How do you call it? In English, I don't remember now. So perhaps we could wobble a bit less and come back from the wobble a bit earlier, so that it feels like it's a bit softer in its suspensions. Let's see. Yes, I think so. Yeah. So we hit the wall at 10:15 there. There you go. And that's sorted. Now we have this sorted. We need to sort out the wheels. And And I noticed that the wheels are spinning, so I will need to have a look at this rig because I'm not quite sure what's going on there with the wheels spinning. So in here I have a controller that when I rotate doesn't do anything. That's probably because the wheel have some sort of muff. I think someone they told me that there was some muff on the wheels. So the wheels are constrained on Y and Z. Okay, but they have the X free. Oh, I see. Okay. So these two groups there. And the geometry, what is the geometry doing? Let's see if the geometry has any constraint going on. So there's a rotation there, and this rotation is... Okay, I get it. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so in general, you really want the animation to be on a consistent set of objects, like NURBS, curves, for instance. So we really want this guy to be able to control the spinning of the wheels. So I will go back to the rig, which I keep open because I know that usually you have to tweak a couple of things as you animate. And I will grab this guy, find the group that controls it, which is this group in here. There's already some animation there. Okay, and I can't really know for a fact that this is going to work for me. So what I'm going to do in here, that means that I cannot change this animation anymore, by the way, because it's going to be referenced. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to grab all the wheels that I can find. So this guy, and I suppose there's another group into the back left wheel, into the front wheels. So 1, yes, and 2. And I'm going to delete the motion there. I don't really need that motion to go. And B, I'm going to constrain them to the local controls. They're here for a reason, so I'm going to do that. So this wheel needs to spin, yes. Okay. So I'm going to make this the master, and this back wheel is... Oh, I see what's going on here. So this back wheel is constrained. Okay, I get it. So I will make this the master, and this one is going to be the slave, and I'm going to do an Orient Constraint. So now when I move the wheel up and down, it moves and then it rotates. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So master and slave there, and just hit G to repeat the command. Then I'm going to find the front wheel, this guy here. So master and slave, and repeat the command. And then I'm going to find the same guy with the same group and repeat the command. I'm probably going to... I think I'm going to save this as a new rig, because maybe the animation that was there was great and I just didn't notice that. So I mean, it's always possible. I mean, I don't want to destroy data arbitrarily, so I'm going to keep the old rig just in case I need the animation. Maybe I will realize in a few minutes that I am indeed in need of the animation. Hopefully not, but you never know. So I will save this scene, and now we need to reference the new rig, right? So let's see what I can do there. So I can go into the reference editor, grab the car, and instead of 1, I can put 2 in there, press enter, and hope for the best. If nothing changes in the current framing, then I should be fine, theoretically. And we're there. It took a while, but we are there. Now, I press play, the animation should stay exactly the same. And now what I want to do in here is I want to figure out what's the speed of the wheels. Okay, I don't need it to be very precise because I expect there will be plenty of motion blur going on in here. So I will go down think there is a nice Blender tool that does the wheels for you. That would be sweet to have it here. But now we are not in Blender, so we can't have it. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to grab the floor. I'm going to check what the UVs are in here. Okay. Probably going to duplicate the floor. This is going to be my temp floor there. I'm going to make a planar from above. I'm going to hide for a second the original floor. The moment I find it, that is this guy. And then I'm doing that because I don't know if whoever worked on this shot plans to use this geometry, so I'm changing the UVs for that, and I'm going to give it. In fact, yeah, you see that someone was using this as an AI shadow matte, then meaning they want to render this scene. You know, I don't want to render an animation scene because you don't know what's in it. What if someone like me duplicated some geometry? What about that? So keep an eye on that, guys. So now I will go Lambert, I will go, and I will give it a checkerboard, which I hope will be useful to evaluate contacts. And I will just repeat the UVs, I don't know, 100 times perhaps. There you go. So that now it's a bit easier for me to evaluate the contact of the wheels. So I'm going to set a key on this wheel at the beginning, and actually this is going to be pretty hard. So I'm going to need to have a cube there, which I'm going to snap to the wheel controller, and then I'm going to grab the cube, make it bigger, put it down there. I think you know where I'm going. Assign, woohoo, I think this material, yes. And I'm going to parent this cube to the wheel. Okay, so now I can evaluate a bit better what's going on there. So I want to check that this speed sort of makes sense. Perhaps I could even, I don't know, let's say I could snap, I could zero out, I could group this one. Let's see if I have one of my scripts in here. I could group this cube in here. I don't think I'm not sure it's working. Ah, there you go. Yes, I did group it. Then I could snap the group up there to the wheel, then grab a subgroup, put it down there, and maybe move it forward, say here. And then I'm going to grab this guy and duplicate spatial it. So duplicate spatial. The rotation we're gonna need is this is an X rotation, so every rotation will be, I don't know, 36 degrees, and I need 9 of these guys. There you go. So now I have a better point of view over the contacts. So I go to the next frames. Perhaps, and maybe this is a bit overkill what I'm doing here, I don't really know. Perhaps I should have used another number, not 36. Perhaps I could grab these 3 guys for now and just scale them up so that I have some variety there. I know how this thing rotates. So this red cube was pointing at this point in the frame. Next thing we know, it should be pointing at the same spot. So that's the speed, that's the right speed I should have in there, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, I have these 2 keys, right? I'm going to grab all the controllers for my car, and I'm going to extract them onto another layer. and I'm going to copy this animation that I have in here on a wheel. I'm going to copy it onto all the other wheels. I'm going to paste it there. So they should all be rotating, hopefully. Are you rotating? Let's see. Yeah, they are rotating. They rotate about 73 degrees per frame. Pretty hefty, but what can you do? And then we're going to paste this animation there and there on every single wheel. In fact, probably we could have had a rig that allowed you to rotate everything together. And then on this layer, this is the wheel speed. So the wheels spinning speed. And well, certainly this is going on more or less at the same speed throughout. I don't think anybody will stand up in the cinema room and say, hey, they don't spin at the right speed. So I'm going to grab these two keys, linearize them, and I'm going to show infinity just so that you see what's going on in here. And I'm going to post a post infinity linear, not linear, sorry, post infinity cycle with offset there. There you go. So now they're going to speed. They're going to spin at the right speed forever and ever. In fact, if I look at them, and that means I can change the speed for all of them in a single go, probably. So if I look at the global control now in here, you see that they are spinning in it. Okay. There you go. So we sorted out the spinning. Now, one thing that tends to happen is when you spin an object very quickly in 3D, you kind of don't notice it spinning because it's so perfect that you just don't see that. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to create a new layer with the back wheels on it. And whenever I'm Tokyo drifting, I'm going to have the back wheel careening, probably. So maybe move a bit up and down or something like that. So I'm going to, in here, I'm going to raise them, sorry, on a layer, I'm going to give it, I don't know, 2 frames. And I'm going to raise them vertically a bit. Just don't want them to leave the floor, okay? And then say 1 frame later, they are down. 2 frames later, they are up again. 2 frames later, they are down. And then I will maybe give it 3 frames in which they go up again, and then in 1 frame they are down a lot more, and then they're in 2 frames they're up again. I wish I thought about using a noise, but there you go. So there you go. So now we start with the regular animation there, and then we keep on having that noise there. So that you see that how I move now, the rotation of the wheel is a lot more apparent there. Okay, it's a bit how do you say, it's a bit subtle. So perhaps I could grab the Y and I could grab all these keys, just scale up the curve a lot more, and then I don't worry now about anything for now. Now you see that we can clearly see the motion there, and of course I think I want to, this is the back wheels, so this will be the back wheels noise. And then I want to do the same with the front wheels. It's going to be probably a kind of a different noise, but what I'm going to do, since I'm lazy, is I'm going to copy these keys, and I'm going to paste them onto another layer just to see how it works there. So hopefully now I have the same noise in the front wheels. Yep. I have a bit of a problem, I think, because when I go super high up in there, I kind of leave the floor, which is meh. That's not really what we want. So I'm going to go back, grab translate Y, and I'm going to make sure the translate Y. I'm going to the highest place in here, and I'm going to make sure that I can scale it down so that it's still a bit on the floor. There you go. So I always want them to be on the floor. I don't want them to suddenly fly. Okay, so I'm going to grab these keys, copy them, paste them over. Then I'm going to grab the front wheel, paste it. The other front wheel I need to be, the front wheel, I was saying I'm on a layer, I'm going to paste the same keys over. Then the other front wheel, I'm going to put it on the same layer, and I'm going to again paste the keys there. So this will be the front wheel noise. Then I'm going to save. And now, if I did everything correctly, I have a lot of noise now on these wheels, right? Which I can then grab. I can grab the front wheels on this layer, and I can go and do a loop. So I'm going to cycle this thing. In a second it will be clear why. Pretty sure you know where I'm going anyway with this. So same thing in here. I'm going to cycle this animation. There you go. So I want to make sure that cycles alright. And I want to make sure they all cycle the way they should. That cycles, and that cycles. Okay, cool. Now if I press play, I should see a lot more noise going on the wheels, you see, throughout the animation. Yeah. There you go. So that's my temp floor there. And I'm going to evaluate from the bottom. I'm going to evaluate, you see, whether the wheels are going to leave the floor a bit too much. And whenever I don't see a wheel in there, that's probably a problem for me. I mean, it could be that we are going to see that in render, and I just don't want to have that problem. Okay, so I'm going to reduce the amount of that bounce in there. Although I wonder if this geometry is really flat. And it's not flat, so we have a different problem here. The problem is that this geometry is not flat. Yes. So we're going to have what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig this thing a tiny bit deeper. So let me just check the global point of view, and I'm going to dig this thing, the path a bit deeper, though in here. Let's see what's the axis. So it's Y, and it goes negative. So let's have a look at it again. So I'm going to remove a few points in there. So I'm going to go 3 centimeters. Oh wow, yeah, okay. So about say 4, no 5. There you go. So now I want to make sure that for the whole duration of the animation I see, or for most of it anyway, I see the wheels, which I do. There you go. So that's cool. Now what do we need this for? Because first of all, because we can control the weight of this layer, so we can decide when we have noise and when we don't, which is not bad. So what I'm going to do in here is I need to re-grab this geometry and reverse the normal so that I can see it from the top. And so this is the lowest, probably the lowest point we are going to have in here, which means I can probably lower it. No, I can't. I won't be doing it. Okay, yes. So I want this to be a bit, this noise to be a bit different than the other, so I'm going to offset it, and then I'm going to grab this guy, and again I'm going to offset it a bit more, and I'm going to make it a bit different again. Then I'm going to have this guy, and again I'm going to, I don't know, change it a bit so that now all the noises will be a bit different by a few frames. And now what I want to do is I zero out the layer, wait for the front noise, and for the back wheels, for as long as we're not Tokyo drifting, the back wheels will have a limited amount of noise, and then as we start the drift, perhaps we could animate the weight of the layer and start having a lot of noise during the drifting, and then when we go back to non-drifting, we reduce the amount of noise a lot, and then again so forth. We drift, we add noise. We stop drifting. So see, I'm keying the layer. We stop drifting, we reduce noise, we go straight, no noise. Here we are starting to drift again, so we go back into full noise there, and then we progressively go back to a much lower amount of noise. So I'm going to look at it in here. It's not a given you're going to notice that necessarily. In fact, I hardly see that happening. Let me see it from the global camera controller. So I want to make sure. Yes, the noise is there. It's just not very visible, but it's there. So there you go. So now we added noise to the wheels as well, and perhaps as the car, maybe we can have a bit of noise on the front wheels by default, except it's going to be, maybe we can make it a bit slower. Okay, so they are not just plain rotations. And then another thing is, I was saying it's very hard to notice them rotate. Now we will notice them a bit more. But another thing, another trick that you can play with vehicle animation is this one. So here we have the group that we are rotating. What I can do is I can make another group, snap it to the existing group, and making it a child of that group. And this is going to be my spin offset. In a second you will see what I mean by that. And I'm going to duplicate this group, and I'm going to snap it there and put it under the other wheel. I'm going to duplicate it, going to put it under this other wheel and snap again. I'm going to duplicate it and I'm going to put it under the last wheel and snap it. So what I can do now is I can grab the wheel and put it under that group. I mean, nothing really changed because this rig is still going to be able to rotate the wheel. But let's see. I mean, I have something there I think that could be useful. So every geometry goes into its spin offset. There you go. So now we have, I think we have 4 spin offsets there, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's great. And what we're going to do in here is I'm going to duplicate these 4 controllers. Then I'm going to scale them and make them a bit smaller. Yep. I'm going to unparent them. I'm going to freeze their transformations, and I'm going to rename these guys. Let's say wheel to wheel offset, so I know what's going on in there. And just a second, yeah, okay, there you go. So they should be renamed. Sorry, I should find wheel and replace it with wheel offset. There you go. Oh, it doesn't care at all. Let's do it again. So find wheel. Oh, because I'm stupid, and replace it with wheel offset. I was renaming things the wrong way. So there you go. And I want to remove the numbers at the end. I don't want them. So now they are named, and I want them to follow each one should follow the respective control. And so this guy goes in there, and then so now we have them following those controls. That's great. And now it would be ideal. So what I want to do in here is I want to be able to control this wheel so that it's a bit off center, so that now as you rotate the wheel you can see it rotate a lot better. Okay, that's what I'm trying to do. I want to do it through controls. I could just use the groups really, but I want to be able to export this animation if I need that, or if someone else needs that. So in here, that means that now I need to be able to control. I have a back wheel control in here, which is controlling 2 controls. Oh, really? There was a back wheel control. That's a shame. I didn't notice that. I wish I did. So now this guy here is spinning the back right wheel. So this guy, so it has an orient and point constraint, BR wheel and BR wheel. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these 2 constraints for now, and I'm going to instead have this offset control those 2 things. So the offset is the master, the BR wheel is the slave, and I'm going to make a orient and point. So hopefully now I will be able to spin this guy as I was doing earlier on. And there's a little bit of a problem there. Stop spinning. So let's see why. Well, let's see if it's a problem of Maya's viewport there. positively stops after 180. So let's see what's the issue there. And here I have rotate order. I want to check the axis, so it's, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use instead of an orient and a point, which I don't think are useful at this stage, I think I'm going to use a parent constraint. So I'm going to grab this guy and I'm going to use a parent constraint, and I want to see if this makes things better. And now they spin just fine. And sure, we could have fixed the problem with the constraint, but I just wasn't in the mood. So now if I move the offset a bit off center, see what I can do there? Neat. So I'm going to do the same with this guy. So I'm going to grab its respective controller there, which is this guy, respective group, which has, oh, this one has an Orient constraint only, right? Because there's the, because there's, it's already been moved. Well, it's not going to be a massive deal. I think I can still use a parent there, so I will. You don't really need a parent there, but I will anyway, just for the sake of making it faster. So there you go, 1 and 2, and I'm going to do a parent constraint in there. I really want to see if this spins. So it's spinning, and this guy still control. Whoa! So there's something going on there. So what's going on there? There is a lattice there. There's a lattice affecting this guy. So what is this lattice doing there? I think it's supposed to squish the wheel. I would expect a lattice to do that in this thing, but there you go, that's the wheel lattice there. There you go, these are the guys. Oh, I see why they were made there. Okay, that's clever. Yes, it's clever, but it gives us a problem. And it gives us a problem because the lattice is not following, probably. Let's see if the problem is... So it's just this guy, really, or perhaps it's the fact that I've broken the connection. So we'll undo, and I will check what's going on there. Yeah, if I do adjust an Orient constraint, this is just working fine. So I just don't have time to investigate that. So now I'm worried about this guy here. Will it work? Have I broken anything there? It seems to be working. This guy rotates. Yeah, it seems to be working there. There you go. And so this guy here, let me freeze the translations. Normally I wouldn't freeze controllers, but I'm already almost 2 hours in, and we need to finish this shot. So this guy here from wheel, I will delete the Orient constraint, and I will make another one, but with the offset there. And I'm going to make an Orient there. I'm going to make sure that this works. There you go. And I make sure that I can spin. And I can spin alright. Okay, so it seems like I can spin alright. However, I've changed a few things. I've noticed that I might have broken stuff without noticing. So I'm going to save this rig here. And I'm going to, well, see if it still works in the scene. So I will go back into the scene. And I'm going to go into the reference editor. This one is version 3, so I'm going to save my scene. And then I'm going to switch this to version free, which is not finding because card turret version free, it's there. So I'm going to scene animation because I didn't put the extension there. So I'm going to reload version free. Please notice whenever I have a massive or significant update in the rig, I change version number and I save before re-references because I don't want any problems. And then the next thing I do is I check that the animation is still working there, which it seems like it is working. Okay, now what I can do in here is I can offset all these guys a tiny bit, and I will offset all of them arbitrarily. I mean, I'm not going to offset them by the same amount. So, ooh, this is not working. Yeah, that I can offset because I only did an orient over there. So this guy, I will offset it maybe a bit this way, and now when I press play, I think I need to look at things from the angle of another control, which is this one. You see that now I can actually see the wheel rotating a lot better there. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this guy here and I'm going to give it another arbitrary offset, and that's not working either. So I'm going to go back into my rig here. I'm going to check if I forgot something, which probably true. There you go, I forgot that guy. So that guy there, it's at the back, I believe. Yes, I need to remove the Orient Constraint in there, and I need to put in there a parent instead. So now I should be able, hopefully, nope. So perhaps I'm doing something off again. So this wheel is what? It's this guy. Okay, so that's Orient, it's gone. This is the master. This is the back wheel, and that's a parent constraint. So now, yes, but I have a problem. So what's the problem there? I will go into the lattice. There's an attribute one can use in the lattice, which I never remember where it is. FFD. And I'm going to say outside lattice. Oh, I should have, well, inside. Okay, so now it's not going to give me the problem anymore. Yeah, I can't say this lattice is doing much, to be honest. It's causing more issues than it solves, probably. In this case, it's just easier to just intersect the wheel into the road, really. So there you go. Now I'm going to move this out. Similar problem and similar solution. Outside lattice, inside. There you go. Then I wanted to fix this issue here, and I wanted to do that by, I need to translate that wheel, right? So I'm going to probably point constrain the spin offset group to that control and see how it works. Probably need to maintain the offset there. There you go. Now I want to see if the rotation is still messing it up. Still messing it up, but not a big deal because now we can change the FFD settings to inside, so it's not going to mess it up anymore. There you go. I'm going to the opposite thing, and again, master, slave, and a good old point with offset. Going to grab the FFD there, and I'm going to set the outside lattice to inside, and I'm going to save. I'm going to hide the lattice group because its visibility really is not useful for me. And then I'm going back into my scene. I saved it before really changing the reference, so I don't need to save it anymore. Just need to go and reload the reference there. So I've just changed some constraints in the rig just to make it work a bit better on the wheels. I had to hit pause because it took me something like 10 minutes. So there you go. So now I'm checking this animation. I still want to make sure that this all works, that we don't have crazy stuff going on in there. There you go. And then what I can do now, I was saying, is I can give an offset to every wheel, a different one. So that now we have a lot more motion going on in the wheels there. And it feels like the car is actually going on to something. Something in this rotation here is kind of not convincing me in the front view of the car. But actually it's in the right position. So I think we are ready to evaluate this thing finally in high res. So I'm going to switch the high res on. Ready for a crash. Let's see if it works. There you go. Yeah, and in there you go. So in here I have a problem. And the problem is that the rig didn't think of yes, so let's say that the rig is not quite compatible with the dramatic change of steering that I put in there. So I will, yeah, simply speaking, we are not steering the actual rig there, and the steering is happening. I get it, I'm getting it. So now the problem is that steering doesn't happen around this pivot in a car, right? It happens around the pivot which is behind the wheel, so somewhere over there the car is steering. So all these keys that are down there on the timeline really are for, I wouldn't say for nothing, but we're pretty close to that. So let's have a look at it again. Here, so yes, I mean this is a mess. Okay, cool. I might have broken the rig now that I think of it. Let's see the rig. Yeah, so I'm checking the old rig, and in fact I broke the rig with the last spinning trick. So so I need to go back and now fix it. So I need to go and open so you see that a lot of this animation really is at the moment is tweaking the rig and making it work in 3D. And the actual animation really was a lot faster, a lot of a faster process. So this guy is actually working fine. This is when I grab, so I accidentally constrained this to the wrong thing. So this is constrained to the wheel offset control, which is this guy. Yes. So what I can do in here, I would like to be able to have these guys rotate when this guy is rotating. Yeah. So cheap solution, come to me. So I will group this thing. I will have an empty group. I will snap it to the control I want to control. Grab that control, find it, and this new group will be the I see. Oh boy. This is okay. So now these guys are actually following the wheels. Controls are really following the. So now these guys are actually following the wheels controls are really 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 following the whe they are following this controller. Okay, when it translates. Okay, so I will try and perhaps I will just make them follow the root control. Please stay there. Yes. So now that when the root goes around, they still follow. Yes. And there's a cat going in front of the screen. Dharma, go away. And there you go. So now this guy rotates, but that rotation doesn't do anything, except we're going to grab this group, put it under the root, and this group is going the right wheel, GRP. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to snap it to the other wheel, and this is going to be the left front wheel, GRP. And these two guys are going to be parented under their respective group. Now, this group's rotation on Y needs to be connected on the rotation of this guy on Y. So this guy is the master, the R group is the slave, and the Orient constraint this time round is a Orient constraint on Y only. Same thing goes for the other wheel. Now if I rotate the wheels, unless I did something terribly stupid, they're going to rotate from the right point, and I should be able to rotate the car. Please work. Yes. Rotate the root. Please work. Yes. And then rotate the chassis, and nothing should happen there. Yes, that's it. So I'm going to save it once more. This is why rigs should be tested beforehand, before the delivery. It's always a good idea to do that. So reference editor, go and grab the rig and just reload this thing. And then I wait for it to load.